Pain is not your enemy, it is your teacher. Most people run away from pain, they hide from it, numb it, distract themselves from it. But the truth is, pain is the birthplace of power. Every powerful human being you admire has walked through fire. Not comfort, not ease, fire. Pain breaks illusions. It destroys the false identity you once believed in. The comfortable mask falls apart, and in that moment when everything familiar collapses, you meet your true self. This is what many fear. But this is also where transformation begins. The human psyche contains darkness and light. Inside every person lives a hidden force, the shadow. When life is easy, the shadow sleeps. But when suffering arrives, when betrayal, loss, or failure shakes your world, the shadow awakens, and suddenly you are forced to confront who you truly are. Pain forces honesty. It strips away the lies you told yourself. It removes the illusions about people, about the world, about your own strength, and what remains is something raw, something real. This is why suffering has the power to transform ordinary people into extraordinary ones. Think about it. Comfort rarely produces greatness, but struggle creates warriors. The strongest minds are not built in moments of happiness, they are forged in moments when life feels unbearable, when you feel alone, when you feel broken, when you feel like the world is against you. Those moments are not the end of your story, they are the beginning of your power, because pain forces growth. It pushes you beyond the limits of the person you used to be. It demands that you evolve, and evolution is never comfortable. A seed must break before it becomes a tree. A diamond must endure pressure before it shines, and a human being must face suffering before discovering inner strength. But here is the secret most people never understand. Pain does not destroy you. Avoiding pain destroys you. When you face pain consciously, when you allow it to teach you instead of running from it, you become stronger, wiser, deeper. You begin to understand life in ways comfortable people never will. Your empathy grows, your awareness sharpens. Your courage becomes real, and slowly something remarkable happens. The same pain that once tried to break you becomes the very thing that builds you. This is the paradox of human growth. Your wounds become your wisdom, your struggles become your strength, and your darkness becomes the source of your light. So if life is difficult right now, if you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, remember this: you are not being destroyed, you are being forged. Because the truth is simple. Pain creates powerful people. Pain has a strange way of revealing the parts of us we spend our entire lives trying to hide. In moments of comfort, it is easy to live behind masks. We show the world a carefully constructed version of ourselves, strong, confident, controlled. We follow routines, play roles, and convince ourselves that we know who we are. But the truth is, comfort often protects our illusions. It allows us to avoid looking deeper. Then pain enters our life. It may come through loss, betrayal, failure, loneliness, or disappointment. Whatever form it takes, pain has a unique power. It shakes the foundation of the identity we built. Suddenly the roles we played no longer protect us. The masks begin to crack. The stories we told ourselves about who we are start to fall apart. And in that painful moment, something honest appears. Pain strips away everything that is false. It forces you to confront emotions you once ignored, fears you once buried, and weaknesses you once denied. When life becomes difficult, you can no longer pretend to be someone you are not. Your true reactions begin to surface. Your patience is tested. Your courage is challenged. Your character is revealed. This is why pain is such a powerful mirror of the human soul. When everything is easy, it is difficult to know the depth of your strength. But when life becomes hard, when you are pushed into darkness, you discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. You discover how much you can endure. You discover the limits of your resilience. And sometimes you discover that those limits are far greater than you ever imagined. Pain also exposes the truth about your relationships, your beliefs, and your priorities. People who once seemed loyal may disappear. Dreams you once chased may lose their meaning. The world you thought you understood suddenly becomes unfamiliar. This can feel terrifying, but it is also a moment of awakening, because in that moment, you are no longer living inside illusions. You begin to ask deeper questions about your life. What truly matters? Who are you without the approval of others? What kind of person do you want to become after this suffering ends? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. They force the mind to grow and the soul to evolve. Without pain, many people would live their entire lives never confronting these deeper truths. Pain also introduces you to your shadow, the hidden part of your psyche that contains your fears, anger, jealousy, insecurity, and suppressed desires. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid this shadow, pretending it does not exist. But suffering brings it to the surface. At first, this encounter can feel overwhelming. You may see parts of yourself that you do not like. You may feel emotions that scare you. But this confrontation is essential for growth. Only when you recognize these hidden parts can you begin to understand and transform them. In this way, pain becomes a doorway to self-discovery. It pushes you inward. It forces you to examine your thoughts, your emotions, and your identity. And through that process, you begin to build a more authentic version of yourself, one that is not based on illusions, but on truth. The person you become after pain is often wiser, stronger, and more aware than the person you were before it. Your perspective deepens. Your empathy grows. You begin to understand the struggles of others because you have faced your own. This is why pain, despite its cruelty, holds a hidden gift. It reveals who you truly are, beneath the masks, beneath the expectations of society, beneath the comfortable lives you once believed. It shows you the raw, unfiltered version of yourself, the version that exists when everything superficial has been stripped away. And from that place of honesty, something powerful begins to grow. A stronger identity, a clearer purpose, a deeper understanding of life. Pain does not simply hurt you, it reveals you. Struggle is one of the most powerful forces that shapes the human spirit. It is not comfortable, it is not easy, and often it feels unfair. Yet throughout history, the strongest individuals have not been those who lived easy lives, but those who were forced to confront hardship and grow through it. Struggle challenges the very core of who you are. It pushes you beyond the limits you once believed were permanent, and forces you to discover abilities and strengths that would otherwise remain hidden. When life is easy, the mind becomes relaxed and passive. Comfort allows a person to remain the same. There is little reason to change, little motivation to grow. In these moments, many people begin to believe they are strong, simply because they have never been tested. But true strength does not appear in times of comfort. It reveals itself only when life becomes difficult. Struggle introduces pressure into your life. It creates situations where you must adapt, think differently, and endure circumstances that feel overwhelming. At first, this pressure can feel unbearable. You may question your abilities. You may doubt your purpose. You may even feel as though you are breaking under the weight of your problems. But it is precisely in these moments that inner strength begins to form. Just as muscles grow stronger when they are challenged and strained, the human mind and spirit grow stronger when they are tested by difficulty. Every challenge forces you to stretch your limits. Every obstacle requires courage, patience, and resilience. And each time you survive something that once seemed impossible, your confidence grows a little stronger. Struggle also teaches discipline. When things are difficult, you cannot rely on motivation alone. Motivation fades quickly when the road becomes painful. What remains is your ability to continue moving forward even when you do not feel like it. This persistence slowly builds mental endurance. You learn how to keep going when the situation is uncertain, when progress is slow, and when the outcome is unclear. Another powerful effect of struggle is that it sharpens your awareness. Difficult experiences make you more attentive to your thoughts, your decisions, and your behavior. You begin to recognize patterns in your life that you once ignored. You see what helps you grow and what holds you back. This awareness allows you to make wiser choices and become more intentional about the path you follow. Struggle also creates emotional depth. People who have faced hardship often develop a deeper understanding of life and a stronger sense of empathy toward others. When you have experienced pain and difficulty, you begin to understand the hidden battles that other people may be fighting. This understanding creates compassion, and compassion becomes another form of inner strength. There is also a profound transformation that occurs within your identity when you overcome struggle. At the beginning of hardship, you may feel like a victim of your circumstances, but as you endure and continue moving forward, your perception of yourself begins to change. You realize that you are capable of surviving far more than you once believed. The obstacles that once seemed overwhelming begin to look like challenges you are able to face. This shift in identity is powerful. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who avoids difficulty, you begin to see yourself as someone who can endure it. This mindset creates courage. It gives you the confidence to face future challenges with greater determination. Struggle also removes illusions about life. It teaches you that the path to growth is rarely smooth or predictable. There will always be moments of uncertainty, failure, and frustration. But these moments are not signs that you are weak or that you should give up. They are signs that you are moving through the process of transformation. Over time, the struggles you once feared begin to look different. You start to recognize them as teachers rather than enemies. Each difficulty contains a lesson about patience, resilience, humility, or perseverance, and each lesson strengthens your character in ways that comfort never could. The remarkable truth about struggle is that it gradually changes the structure of your mind. What once felt impossible begins to feel manageable. What once frightened you begins to feel like a challenge you are prepared to face. Your tolerance for hardship grows, and with it grows your confidence in your ability to navigate life's difficulties. Eventually, you reach a point where you realize something important. The strength you admire in others was not given to them by chance. It was built slowly through experiences that forced them to grow. Every hardship they endured contributed to the person they eventually became. The same process is happening within you. Every struggle you face is shaping your character. Every challenge is strengthening your ability to endure, and every moment you choose to continue moving forward is building the inner power that defines truly strong people. Struggle does not exist to destroy you. It exists to transform you into someone stronger than you were before. One of the most difficult journeys a human being can take is the journey inward, the confrontation with the hidden parts of the self. In the psychology of Carl Jung, this hidden dimension is known as the shadow. The shadow represents the parts of our personality that we suppress, deny, or refuse to acknowledge. It contains our fears, anger, jealousy, insecurity, selfish impulses, and even our hidden potential. These elements remain buried deep in the unconscious mind because they are uncomfortable to face. Most people spend their lives avoiding this inner darkness. Society encourages us to show only the parts of ourselves that appear acceptable, kind, successful, and controlled. From an early age, we learn to hide the emotions and impulses that might make us appear weak or flawed. Over time, this creates a split within the psyche. The version of ourselves we present to the world becomes polished and socially acceptable, while the rejected parts sink deeper into the unconscious. But the shadow does not disappear simply because we ignore it. Instead, it continues to influence our behavior from beneath the surface. Unacknowledged anger may appear as sudden outbursts. Hidden insecurity may cause jealousy or resentment. Suppressed fear may lead to avoidance and self-sabotage. In many cases, people project their shadow onto others, blaming others for qualities they refuse to recognize within themselves. This is why facing the shadow is so important for personal growth. The process often begins when life forces us into moments of reflection, usually through suffering, failure, or emotional crisis. During these moments, the masks we wear begin to crack. The comfortable image we have of ourselves no longer holds together. Suddenly, we are confronted with emotions and behaviors we once denied. At first, this confrontation can feel deeply unsettling. You may realize that you are capable of anger, bitterness, or selfishness. You may discover fears that limit your actions or insecurities that influence your decisions. These realizations can feel painful because they challenge the ideal image you once had of yourself. However, this discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is the beginning of self-awareness. When you become aware of your shadow, you gain the opportunity to understand it. Instead of pretending these aspects do not exist, you begin to explore them with honesty. You ask yourself why certain emotions arise. You examine the fears that shape your decisions. You acknowledge the darker impulses that influence your behavior. This process requires courage because it demands brutal honesty with yourself. Many people prefer to maintain the illusion of perfection rather than face their inner contradictions, but those who are willing to look into the depths of their own psyche gain a profound understanding of themselves. And with understanding comes transformation. Once the shadow is recognized, it no longer controls you from the unconscious. You begin to integrate these hidden aspects into your conscious awareness. This does not mean allowing destructive behavior to dominate your life. Instead, it means recognizing these forces and learning how to channel them in healthy and productive ways. For example, anger can be transformed into determination. Fear can become caution and wisdom. Ambition, which may once have appeared as selfishness, can be directed toward meaningful goals. Even qualities that once seemed negative can become sources of strength when they are understood and integrated properly. This process of integration creates psychological wholeness. Instead of being divided between the person you pretend to be and the person you truly are, you begin to unify these parts into a more authentic identity. You accept that being human means containing both light and darkness. Paradoxically, this acceptance often leads to greater compassion and maturity. When you recognize the imperfections within yourself, you become less judgmental of others. You understand that every person carries their own hidden struggles and contradictions. Facing the shadow also unlocks hidden potential. Many talents, passions, and creative energies are buried within the unconscious because they were once discouraged or rejected. When you explore the shadow, you may rediscover abilities and desires that were suppressed earlier in life. This is why the confrontation with the shadow is not merely about acknowledging weakness. It is also about reclaiming lost parts of yourself. The journey is not quick or easy. It requires continuous reflection and self-awareness, but those who commit to this inner work often experience profound personal growth. They become more authentic, more emotionally balanced, and more resilient in the face of life's challenges. Ultimately, confronting the shadow leads to a deeper understanding of what it means to be human. It teaches you that perfection is an illusion, and that true strength lies in accepting and integrating every part of your nature. When you face your shadow instead of running from it, you stop being controlled by unconscious forces. You become the conscious architect of your own character, and from that place of self-awareness, real growth begins. Many people spend their entire lives trying to escape pain. They search for comfort, distraction, and temporary relief whenever difficulty appears. At first, this seems natural. Pain is unpleasant, uncomfortable, and sometimes frightening. The human mind is designed to protect itself, and one of the easiest ways to do that is by avoiding situations that cause emotional or psychological discomfort. But there is a hidden danger in constantly escaping pain. When a person repeatedly avoids difficulty, they also avoid the very experiences that build resilience and character. Instead of developing the ability to endure hardship, the mind becomes accustomed to comfort. Over time, this comfort turns into dependence. The individual begins to fear any situation that might challenge them because they have never trained their mind to face discomfort directly. Avoidance may feel like protection in the short term, but in the long term it slowly weakens the human spirit. When challenges appear, and they inevitably will, the person who has always avoided pain finds themselves unprepared. Small problems begin to feel overwhelming. Minor setbacks create anxiety and frustration. Situations that require courage or perseverance become extremely difficult because the mind has not developed the strength required to endure them. Avoiding pain also creates a cycle of stagnation. Growth requires stepping into the unknown, taking risks, and facing the possibility of failure. But if a person is constantly trying to protect themselves from discomfort, they will avoid these opportunities. They will remain inside the boundaries of what feels safe and familiar. At first, this may seem like stability, but slowly it becomes limitation. The world continues to move forward while the person who avoids struggle remains stuck in the same patterns. Dreams remain unrealized, potential remains undiscovered, the fear of pain becomes stronger than the desire for growth. There is also a psychological cost to avoiding suffering. When emotions such as fear, sadness, anger, or disappointment are constantly suppressed or ignored, they do not disappear. Instead, they accumulate beneath the surface of the mind. Over time, these buried emotions can manifest in unexpected ways: stress, anxiety, irritability, or a persistent sense of emptiness. The mind cannot become healthy by pretending that pain does not exist. It becomes stronger by learning how to face pain and understand it. Another consequence of avoiding pain is that it weakens a person's sense of identity. Strength and confidence are built through experience. Each challenge that you face and overcome becomes evidence that you are capable of surviving difficulty. These experiences shape your belief in yourself. But if you constantly run from struggle, you never gather this evidence. The mind begins to doubt its own abilities. You may start to question whether you are capable of handling adversity simply because you have never allowed yourself the opportunity to prove it. This self-doubt gradually erodes confidence. The world begins to feel more threatening, and the individual becomes increasingly dependent on comfort and reassurance. In contrast, those who face pain develop a very different mindset. They begin to see challenges not as threats but as opportunities to grow stronger. They learn that discomfort is temporary and that perseverance leads to progress. Each difficulty they overcome adds another layer of confidence and resilience. The remarkable truth is that pain, when confronted consciously, becomes one of the greatest teachers in life. It reveals weaknesses that need attention. It forces you to adapt and develop new skills. It teaches patience, humility, and endurance. Avoiding pain denies you these lessons. Just as a muscle becomes weak when it is never used, the mind becomes fragile when it is never challenged. Strength, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, requires resistance. Without resistance, there can be no development. This does not mean seeking suffering unnecessarily or glorifying hardship. It means understanding that difficulty is an unavoidable part of life, and that facing it directly is far healthier than trying to escape it. When you begin to accept pain as part of the human experience, something important changes in your mindset. Instead of fearing every obstacle, you become more prepared to handle them. You understand that discomfort does not mean failure. It simply means you are growing beyond your previous limits. Over time, the very situations that once frightened you begin to feel manageable. The mind becomes calmer in moments of stress. Your confidence grows because you know that you have faced difficulty before and survived it. Avoiding pain may feel safe for a moment, but it quietly weakens your ability to live fully and courageously. Facing pain, on the other hand, strengthens your character and prepares you for the complexities of life. True strength is not found in a life without hardship. It is found in the courage to confront hardship and grow through it. Every human being carries wounds. Some are visible, etched into the surface of life through failures, losses, and hardships. Others remain invisible, hidden deep within the mind and heart, memories of betrayal, disappointment, rejection, or moments when life did not unfold as we hoped. These wounds often feel like burdens we wish we could erase. Many people spend years trying to forget them, hide them, or pretend they never happened. But the strange truth about human growth is that our deepest wisdom rarely comes from moments of comfort. It comes from the experiences that once caused us pain. When life moves smoothly, there is little reason to question ourselves or the world around us. Comfort allows us to move through life, without deep reflection. But when we are wounded by experience, something inside us begins to change. Pain interrupts the ordinary flow of life and forces us to stop and examine what has happened. In that moment of reflection, the mind begins searching for meaning. Why did this happen? What can be learned from it? How can this experience shape the person I become next? These questions mark the beginning of transformation. A wound becomes more than just a painful memory. It becomes a teacher. It reveals truths about life that are impossible to understand without experiencing them directly. A person who has faced betrayal learns the value of trust and the importance of choosing relationships wisely. Someone who has experienced failure begins to understand perseverance and humility. A person who has endured loss discovers the depth of love and the fragility of time. Each wound leaves behind a lesson. At first, these lessons may be difficult to see. When pain is fresh, the mind focuses only on the suffering. Emotions such as anger, sadness, or confusion can cloud our perspective. But as time passes and reflection deepens, the experience begins to reveal its hidden meaning. Gradually, the wound transforms into insight. The person who once felt broken by hardship begins to recognize how that very hardship shaped their understanding of life. Their perspective becomes deeper. Their judgments become wiser. They begin to notice patterns in human behavior and the subtle complexities of emotions that once seemed simple. This is how wisdom begins to grow. Wisdom is not merely knowledge collected from books or conversations. It is knowledge shaped by experience, refined by struggle, and strengthened by reflection. It carries emotional depth because it was earned through real moments of difficulty. Wounds also develop empathy. When someone has endured pain, they gain a deeper ability to understand the suffering of others. Instead of judging people quickly or dismissing their struggles, they recognize the hidden battles that many individuals carry silently. This empathy becomes a powerful form of wisdom. It allows a person to connect with others more authentically and to offer understanding rather than criticism. Another transformation occurs in how a person views themselves. When you survive painful experiences, you begin to realize something important about your own strength. Situations that once seemed impossible to endure become part of your past. The memory of surviving them becomes evidence that you are stronger than you once believed. This realization slowly reshapes your identity. Instead of seeing yourself as someone defined by wounds, you begin to see yourself as someone who has learned from them. The pain that once seemed like a permanent scar becomes a source of knowledge about your resilience and your capacity to endure. Over time, many people even begin to recognize that their wounds guided them toward a deeper understanding of life's meaning. Without those experiences, they might have remained unaware of important truths about relationships, purpose, compassion, and personal strength. The wound becomes part of the story that shaped who they are. This does not mean that pain should be romanticized or that suffering is something to desire. Pain is difficult, and no one willingly seeks it. But when pain becomes unavoidable, as it inevitably does in every human life, it can either remain a source of bitterness or become a source of wisdom. The difference lies in how we choose to reflect upon it. If a person allows their wounds to close their heart, the experience becomes a prison of resentment and regret. But if they choose to examine their experiences with honesty and understanding, the wound becomes a doorway to personal growth. The scars remain, but their meaning changes. Instead of representing weakness, they begin to represent survival. Instead of representing loss, they begin to represent the lessons that shaped a wiser and stronger version of the self. In this way, the most painful experiences of life gradually transform into something valuable. They become quiet reminders of what you have endured, what you have learned, and how far you have come. And eventually you begin to understand a profound truth about the human journey. The very wounds that once caused your deepest pain can become the source of your greatest wisdom. So remember this: pain is not a curse placed upon your life. It is a call to transformation. The world will try to convince you that comfort is the goal, But comfort has never created greatness. Only those who walk through darkness discover their own light. Every scar you carry is proof that you survived something meant to break you. Every struggle you endure is shaping a stronger mind, a deeper soul, and an unbreakable spirit. Do not run from your suffering. Face it, learn from it, transform through it, because the truth is simple and eternal. The strongest people in this world were not born powerful. They were created by pain, and one day you will look back at the struggles that once terrified you and realize they were the very moments that made you unstoppable.